Welcome to the 14th arrondissement of Paris, the most underrated district of the capital.
Calm and residential. Most tourists never make it out to this southernmost edge of the left bank, but it's definitely worth the trip if you want a delightful taste of behind-the-scenes Paris.
You'd be forgiven, though, for forgetting that you're in a world capital, as it feels more like a charming cluster of villages stitched together.
Here you'll find cozy streets filled with local boutiques and boulangeries, hidden alleys, and quirky sights.
Not to mention 6 million skeletons beneath your feet. Join us as we wander around the 14e arrondissement. The 14th often gets the lame duck reputation compared to other arrondissements in Paris, but some say it's actually the capital's best-kept secret.
The 14th has a story around every corner, and it's certainly attracted a lot of artists and entertainers over the years. We're off to find out more with tour guide Simon Berg.
Hey, Simon.
Hi, Flo. Hi, Genie.
Thanks so much for being with us today. You run Chango Tours, a tour company here in Paris. The 14th arrondissement has a quiet magnetism to it, right? And we're here in the Montparnasse area. This was famous in the early 1900s. Who would hang out here and where would they hang out?
We're very close to what I like to call the strip of the 14th, is the Boulevard du Montparnasse. It's just a block in that direction. It's where the old city walls of Paris used to run. And that was a perfect place for larger establishments with more seating. So you have La Coupole across the street, there's Le Select, both of them vying for a distinctly American crowd because they were able to host American entertainers due to the size of their establishments. So people like Josephine Baker, she's by far my favorite. We're actually standing on a place dedicated in her honor. Nice. So she was definitely the star of the 14th.
So as you were saying, on this strip, there were all kinds of incredible cafes. Tell us a bit more about what they were like and who went there.
If you've watched The Great Gatsby, that kind of over-the-top Art Deco aesthetic, that's right around the same time. 1920s, 30s, lines up with American Prohibition. If you wanted to continue to work in nightlife or entertainment in the States, you either had to be saddled up next to crooked police and the mob. So some people didn't develop a palate for that kind of lifestyle, so they moved to Paris.
And in the early 1900s, there were also a lot of up-and-coming avant-garde artists who settled here, people like Modigliani, Brancusi, even Picasso. Why did they come to the 14th?
Earlier in Paris' history, a lot of artists went to Montmartre. Montmartre had its own vineyard, so when it was outside the city, that was the cheapest place to drink. And when they started flooding in here, because of its kind of reputation at the time as a Rust Belt area of the city, this was the cheapest place to come.
There's actually a very strong Breton community here, like people from Brittany, a lot of crepe restaurants around here. So why did they come here?
So they came here because they were part of an age-old industrial story. Montparnasse train station was the terminus of the rail line that served Brittany as a region, which was one of France's poorest regions at the time. So it was not by choice that they settled here. They showed up because this was the end of the line. They walked out of the train station and thought, oh shucks, maybe we made a mistake. And so they didn't venture too far into the city. They settled where they landed. So that's why this whole neighborhood became known as they say in French, La Petite Bretagne, Little Brittany.
I imagine not a lot of tourists actually come to the 14th, but you actually live in the 14th. It's a place you know well. Can you share some of its secrets with us?
Oh man, there's so many. Even the name of this neighborhood, Montparnasse, was Parisian ironicism, if that's a word, right? It was an ironic sense of humor. This was Paris's landfill in the 1600s. It was outside the city walls. This is where all the city's detritus would be dumped. And so Parisians gave a grand name to their trash heap, to their landfill. They call it Le Mont du Parnasse, which is a Greek mountain, Mount Parnassus. And so then the name stuck. I happen to have one of my sidecars with me. How about I take you for a ride and show you some of these neighborhoods?
All right, let's go.
Yes,
Excellent.
please. Simon, that was so much fun. Thank you
I'm glad
so
you
much.
liked
I
it.
feel like you've taken us to the French countryside, but we're still in the 14th. Where are we?
We're in the Villa Seurat, named after a French pointilliste, French painter called Georges Seurat. The 14th is kind of like a hub of this like village vibe, which attracted a lot of artists through the 19th and 20th centuries. And this is a very, very nice example of a somewhat later one. And these are scattered and littered all over the 14th. They're really cool. It's one of the reasons why I like this part of town so much.
And where does the villagey feel of the 14th arrondissement come from? Because this part of town is really associated with that villagey vibe.
It's particular to any arrondissement that sits on top of old stone quarries because it limits the ability to build high rises. There's just too much empty space under the ground. So the 14th, 13th, all of the external arrondissements that are kind of old industrial parts of town, but the 14th sits atop the biggest one. So that's why it's more well known for these kind of little village-esque enclaves.
It's like it's built on Swiss cheese.
Yes, like it's built on Swiss cheese.
And thank you for the amazing tour.
So much fun.
Very welcome. My pleasure. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Paris has its share of confusing intersections, but this one might win the top prize. Place Denfert-Rochereau, that's currently being renovated.
At the center, you'll find a statue of a lion. This is the Lion de Belfort, a statue by Auguste Bartholdi, who's also famous for another statue you might have heard of, the Statue of Liberty.
This is the most touristy part of the 14th. It's home to the Musée de la Libération de Paris, a museum dedicated to the liberation of Paris after the occupation of World War II.
You'll also find the entrance to another tourist site, not for the faint of heart, the Paris Catacombs. 20 meters under the bustling streets of the 14th arrondissement, you'll find a sign that says, "Stop, this is the Empire of Death. Welcome to the hidden world of the catacombs." Here, you'll find a labyrinth of underground tunnels and ancient Roman quarries, now filled with thousands and thousands of bones. The bones were moved here in the late 18th century, as the overflowing corpses in the capital's cemeteries were contaminating the city's water. It took over 12 years to move the remains of 6 million people. In 1809, the tunnels were open to the public, and it became an instant hit. Visitors were fascinated by the macabre arrangements of skulls and bones into crosses and columns. The Paris catacombs were recently refurbished to improve the visitors' experience and ensure the longevity of the bones. If you're claustrophobic but still interested in the deceased, head to the nearby Montparnasse Cemetery. See if you can spot the graves of iconic men and women, such as philosophers Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, singer Serge Gainsbourg, and former President Jacques Chirac, among many others. This starry resting place is a peaceful, reflective space worth a wander.
If you need a break from the macabre or just the hustle and bustle of the city, come take a beautiful stroll in Parc Montsouris.
Built in the 1860s by Napoleon III as part of a bid to make the capital greener, the Parc Montsouris is a peaceful haven full of rolling lawns and 100-year-old trees and a duck-filled pond. It's perfect for picnics and people watching.
It's the green lung of the 14th, and film buffs will recognize it as the place where Cléo met Antoine in the French New Wave film classic by Agnès Varda, Cléo de 5 à 7.
Agnès Varda loved the 14th arrondissement and lived here for nearly 70 years. In fact, she used to say, "I don't live in Paris, I live in the 14th arrondissement."
For a more offbeat Parisian stroll in the 14th, check out parts of La Petite Ceinture, a former train line that's been reclaimed by nature.
32 kilometers of railway lines, a living time capsule reminiscent of another time. In the mid-19th century, as Napoleon III reshaped Paris into a modern metropolis, the Petite Ceinture, the Little Belt, was conceived as a circular railway. The idea was to connect the major train stations like Gare du Nord and Gare de Lyon, allowing passengers and freight to move efficiently without crossing the crowded center. In 1900, it transported 39 million passengers. But the new century brought the rise of the Paris metro, making the Petite Ceinture less essential. Service declined. Freight traffic lingered for decades, but eventually even that faded. Left abandoned, nature crept in. Today, sections of the Petite Ceinture are open to the public. Walking along it feels like stepping into a parallel Paris.
C'est plutôt agréable d'avoir une étendue verte comme ça à côté de chez soi. Mais les enfants, ça les amuse beaucoup de circuler là où il y avait des trains.
The city has plans to continue opening parts of the Petite Ceinture, all the while celebrating its past.
Dans le cadre de tous les aménagements qui vont être faits sur la petite ceinture, il faut que la voie ferrée soit présente pour qu'on puisse ponctuellement faire circuler des trains, comme on l'a fait jusqu'en 2003, des trains peu touristiques, et pourquoi pas aussi des trains statiques, un peu comme des trains exposition qui seraient organisés sur la petite ceinture.
What was once a symbol of industrial progress has become a sanctuary of quiet and wildness in the busy city.
The 14th arrondissement may be off the typical tourist track, but for many people around the world, it's known as the home of La Cité Universitaire, an international university campus.
La Cité U, as it's known to locals, is home to some 6,000 students from about 120 countries. It might not seem like your usual place to visit, but it's definitely worth a stroll, if anything, for all the green space that's open to the public.
This vast campus is home to some 40 residences inspired by different styles and architectures from all over the world.
Two of the buildings were designed by the Swiss-born French architect Le Corbusier. It's an unusual place where you can go around the world without leaving Paris.
Well, we'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for wandering around the 14th arrondissement with us, and we'll see you soon for the next neighborhood edition of French Connections.